Today, I want to describe the main differences between Supply Chain Management League as run in 2021 and as was run last year in 2020. To get more information about this competition, please look at the other tutorials in our playlist. But today I want to focus on the main differences. And of course, that's only useful or important for people who actually know about the last competition. So I will not describe in details what happened in the last competition. Okay, so why we have SCML? I seem to start each video with this. It's because we want to have a realistic-ish environment in which agents negotiate, so we can move negotiation more toward the real world. And one problem we noticed in the competition is that it seemed to be too hard. The two tracks we had seemed to be too hard. That's why this year, one of the main changes we did is to introduce a third track. It's a simpler track we call Oneshot, which focuses on concurrent negotiation and doesn't involve production or long-term planning, which were main features in the standard and collusion tracks. For the standard and collusion tracks, there is no change in the rules at all. The only difference is in the evaluation criteria, and the change is small. I will describe it later. Finally, we give more information in the three tracks. Agents have more information about the market that they didn't have last year, which allows you to develop an even better strategy. I speak about the main philosophy of the three tracks. Why do we have three tracks? Isn't that too much? And what each one of them is developed to test. I think that's very important to keep in mind when you develop your agent. Then I speak about the changes in existing tracks. There are exactly three changes. And then I'll speak about the new track. So the Oneshot track is the simplest of the three tracks we are running this year. It's focusing on solving the problem of concurrent negotiation. So the utility function is exactly calculable. If you remember from last year in the other two track, we couldn't give you a utility function. You had to design your own utility function. But for the Oneshot track, it's possible to define the optimal utility function, and we designed it for you. So that make you focus more on negotiation. The only challenge here is that you have multiple concurrent negotiations, and you have to optimize your behavior for that. Uh, so it provides a simpler environment compared with the other two tracks, and that helps in learning. If you are using machine learning, you may find that applying it in the Oneshot track is easier. It's still possible to use machine learning, and actually many people used it last year in the standard and collusion tracks, but Oneshot track was designed specifically to make that even easier. The standard track focuses on the interconnection between planning and negotiation. So you don't plan with a predefined utility function that you know in advance, like in the Oneshot track. You plan your factory and negotiate in the same time, and you have each one solving in each one of these problems affect the other. So it's actually more realistic than the Oneshot track. Finally, in the collusion track, it focuses on what happens if you run automated negotiation in the wild. If you have multiple factors, if you can control multiple factors, can you corner the market? So we think of it as a kind of ethical hacking. If you can show us how the market can be cornered through collusion with your agents, then the mechanisms can be changed to make that impossible and to make it much harder for agents to collude together and corner the market, reducing the utility of everyone. So that's the main focus of the collusion track, allowing checking whether you can maximize your profits by cornering the market somehow. And this is where most of the changes happened this year. The market information that we add, as we said, there are three changes. The first one is that we give you market information that we didn't give you last year. This is the trading price. If you participated last year, you know what are the trading prices. It's simply the weighted running average of product prices at which they were traded. And last year it was internal information. It wasn't available to the agents, but now it is available through the AWI. We found that the most effective agents were agents that could learn the trading prices over time. and adapt their behavior based on that. So we thought maybe if we give it to you, you can even think about something else to do, something uh, more involved. Uh, so that's why we added the trading prices. The other thing we added is exogenous contract summary. So the market is driven by these exogenous contracts, but last year you didn't have any knowledge about the kind of demand at this step. So how much uh, input and output products are available through exogenous contracts? This year you have this summary. The individual contracts for each individual agent are still private information, but you have just the average unit prices of input and output products, as well as the total quantity available in the exogenous contracts. I think that that will help you in deciding what should you do at every negotiation step based on the demand in the market. The second change we did is an evaluation change, and that's mostly affecting the collusion track. It's the same thing happened in both tracks, but it doesn't have any effect actually in the standard track. In the collusion track, this is an important change. So in 2020, the final score of the agent was the median score of all factories controlled by the agent. So if we had three factories in one simulation, we calculate the score for each one of them, and then you have three numbers for this simulation. We calculate all of these numbers for all of the simulations, and the median is your score. So a very effective strategy was to just make one of your three factories lose all of its money to the other two, pushing its median up, which we call median bumping. That was the most effective strategy last year. But that will not be helpful this year because we now decide the final score as the median of your score in each world simulation. That is the same, but how do we calculate your score in a single simulation? This year, we simply sum the three scores of the three factories. So if you take one of your factories and make it lose to the other two, that has zero effect on your median. So you cannot push your median up by doing that, and you have to think about another strategy to collude between your agents and to corner the market. Okay. Uh, there is another rule, which is you can become qualified to the competition uh, as long whenever you submit to standard competition, you are qualified to the collusion competition as well. But you cannot become a finalist for the collusion competition except if you have a non-trivial collusion strategy, and you can show that you have that by writing it in your report. So we will check the reports, and all the finalists must have some non-trivial collusion strategy. All the finalists for the collusion track must have a non-trivial collusion strategy. Okay. In terms of agent behavior, we introduced new agents. This year we have more information, trading prices, and exogenous contract summary. So we didn't modify the existing built-in agents, but we added new ones. And these new ones take this extra information into account. So we defined a market-aware trade prediction strategy. Last year we had just a trade prediction strategy. We defined a market-aware one that takes the exogenous contract summary into account. We defined a keep only good prices strategy for signing, which doesn't sign any contracts that is very far from the current trading prices, so that agents cannot just by any internal bugs or anything sign crazy contracts like buying one item for $3 million when its trading price is 5. If you use this component, your agent can never do that. And for the negotiation strategy, we developed a new market-aware negotiation strategy that can adjust the negotiation agenda based on the trading price. Okay, actually, this was a modification of the existing negotiation strategy. So even if you base your agent on the same components that you used last year, you will notice that the issue spaces that are being used are slightly different, and they make more sense because the trading price is available. So if I'm buying an item, the price of this item should be around the current trading price. It shouldn't be much higher or much lower. Okay. We then use these components to build new built-in agents. And so there is market-aware decentralizing agent, market-aware independent decentralizing agents, and so on. The behavior of the old built-in agents have changed slightly, and the main change is just this use of a more compact issue space. Then we introduced a new track, which we call the one-shot track. I will not speak about the details of this track because there is a complete tutorial about that, and you can see it in the playlist. But in general, it's similar to the SCML, but you have all the negotiations happen in one day. So at any day, in the beginning, exogenous contracts are given to the agents, then the agents negotiate, and the results of all the negotiations, then the production and execution of contracts all happen in the same day. There is no delay, and all projects then perish. So if you have some inputs that they didn't sell immediately, you lose them. And this is one of the main differences, and it makes the problem much easier. So I'll speak in detail about these differences. The first one is about inventory. Last year, products never perish, so you can buy something in the very first step and you keep it in your inventory, and in the last step, it is evaluated at half the trading price, and that can be very good for you. But in one shot, all products perish at the end of the day. This means that whatever you buy, you must produce and sell at the same day. Secondly, even inventory valuation in score calculation, there was some valuation at the end last year. This year, because everything is perishable, there is no valuation. And the implication of that is that you should never buy more than what you can produce and sell immediately. And future market conditions do not matter for today's profit. And that's why it's simplified the problem too much. You don't need to think about the future too much. You can just focus on the current set of current negotiation. You don't need to design a long-term trading plan. Okay. The production graph can have more than one intermediate product. For simplicity, this year in the one-shot game, we have exactly one intermediate product. This means that each agent have exactly one exogenous contract, either for buying or for selling, and it's only negotiating on the other side for selling or for buying. There is no need to consider the case when your agent has no exogenous contracts this year in the one-shot. Of course, you need that in the standard. It's recommended for future proofing to either work, have your agent being able to work in the middle, or just fail gracefully. And in the tutorials, we show you how to do that very easily. For public information, all tracks in 2021 have public information that we described before, trading prices and exogenous contract summary. Now, about long-term planning, it was needed and it was necessary. It was necessary last year in the standard and collusion track to have a plan about what will you do in the future. But in the one-shot game, you actually don't need any trading plan. And the main reason is that the future cannot be affected by what happens today because everything perishes at the end of the day. So you cannot hope to get high profits by devising agendas for your benefit. That's another difference, that the agendas are devised by the system in the one-shot track. And you need not to think about whom to negotiate with because you always negotiate with everyone in the other level. Okay. The negotiation agenda for delivery time, it was negotiable last year because you can buy something today with a delivery date after 3 steps or something. This year, it's not negotiable. It is today. All negotiations are about today. Okay, we don't think about the future during the negotiation. For the quantity, it may be good to buy and sell above your number of lines. You can buy more than you can produce because you can produce them in the next step. But this year, it's never a good idea. So all the quantities are limited from above by the number of lines of all factories. And that simplifies the utility function and the search space. For the utility functions, there was no way to calculate a correct utility function. What I mean by correct utility function is an exact calculation of the profits given a set of contracts at one step. Doesn't even mean anything. We have to see how will things go in the future steps to understand if you can sell everything you bought, for example, in the future. But in one shot, because of the changes we described before, it's actually very easy to define an exact utility function. So we defined it and we implemented it for you, and you can just use it. You don't need to define your own utility function. The exogenous contracts are more consistent in the one-shot track. So in the standard track, Let's say that at one step we have an exogenous contract for the input material of a total quantity of 10, and we have two agents. So each agent may have 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 10. So, and it's different every day. You can't expect anything there. In the one-shot game, actually the agent tends to have relatively high or relatively low quantities consistently. So that can help you in learning. Okay. In the official competition, it may be possible to actually use the same method in the standard inclusion track. For signing, in the standard inclusion track, you had to decide what to sign and what not to sign after the agreement. So agreements were not binding until signed. But in the one-shot track, sorry about that, in the one-shot track, it's binding immediately. Once you get an agreement, it's immediately binding. The bad news is that you don't have some central point in which you look at all your contracts and decide which to sign and which not to sign to maximize your profit. But the good news is that you can know that whenever you get an agreement, the other agent will also be forced to sign it. So it's commitment from both sides. And that we are not sure if that simplifies the problem or even make it harder, but it's a difference that we are exploring. And these are all the differences I wanted to speak about. So I hope that uh, you will find them justified, and I hope that you will participate again this year, either in one of the two tracks that are continuing or on the new young track one shot. Thank you very much. Bye.